Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where and when you're watching this broadcast. I'm Thomas Fessler, my friends, and this is Disclosure Tonight. Happy Friday, December 19th. Would you look at that? We've got like 5 days left till Christmas Eve. What the heck is up with that? Well, let's go ahead and get on to the show. We got an interesting one here today. Yeah, we got some videos from Sol Symposium 2025. You know, the one you usually had to go ahead and pay to see. Well, they've released a great video with Mr. Nuccitelli. Should be a great one. On that note, let's go ahead and welcome in the audience. Who the heck do we have out there? Well, we got Amanda's in the chat along with Bradley, Craig Smith, CW's here along with Dave C. We got Eliza Teal, Flyby is around. Frank Rappa is in the audience along with Geraldine Durazio, Grateful Bunny, Hides in Long Grass is here along with J-Cat Meow. Kane Northrup is out there. Good to see you, my friend. We got Kathy, Kelly Burrow, and those piercing blue eyes. Good to see you, Kelly. Increasing the zoom so I can see better. Oh, my eyes. What happened to my eyes? Meninopolis is here along with Mr. Grimlock. We got Necessary Dialogue, Niles Guy, The Real Mr. X. Ronnie Deals here along with Scooby Dooby Gooby. Who else is out there? Just pop there. Sholto or someone is out there. We got Spiritually Slapped, Super Unknown, The Chromosome Cowboy, The Wasteland. This is Colonial, maybe. Chuck and Paw Paw. We got Two Midgets on a Horse, Turtlehead 420, along with Wendy, Joe, and Yankee. Good to see everybody. On that note, let's go ahead and jump into the studio and welcome our dear friend Mike. And how's Mike? How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, and we have a hell of a show tonight for our Friday night audience, and we're gonna have a lot to talk about and a lot to go over. It's gonna be fun.
You mean we're lucky to have a show tonight? We're lucky to have something we can go ahead and share with our audience.
Well, that's true. It's been really dead lately. Nothing going on at all.
Yeah.
But we have stuff. We still have stuff to talk about. It's going to be interesting for the audience. That's why they're here.
The problem is, it's like going to the crematorium to find the body for the show, and there's nothing left but ashes.
Well, that's okay. There's still a crematorium, so people can come and gather. Yeah.
Exactly. On that note, let's go ahead and, I guess let's go ahead into this. I've got an introduction here. Let me get to this. All right. So this video we're watching today is coming to us from the Sol Foundation, where they're talking about a congressional witness speaks out on UFO whistleblowers. You know, among the highlights of the Sol Foundation's 2025 symposium was a fireside conversation between Jeff Nuccitelli and the Sol Foundation's Peter Skafish. We just saw him on Monday. Just weeks after giving testimony to the House Oversight Committee in support of military UAP witnesses and whistleblowers, Jeff joined the crew in Italy for the final event of the program, lighting up the room with his sincerity, courage, and a call for citizen action about UAP. Yeah, we do need more citizen action, my friends, and we need to get past the apathy that's out there, unfortunately. On that note, let's go ahead and jump into this and enjoy it. Mike will be going ahead and pausing as we're watching this to talk about this with you and our panel in the back in the audience. So without further ado, let's get to it, shall we?
Absolutely. Waiting on you. I also want to welcome Whistling Mike into the audience in the front chat.
Oh.
Thank you for joining us. Good to see him there.
Absolutely. All right, here we go, everybody. Lock and load.
So we're to our very last discussion, and our guest now is someone I think most of you know or know of, Jeff Nuccitelli. He's a former U.S. Air Force Security Forces officer with 16 years of active duty service. He was stationed at Vandenberg Air Force Base in the early 2000s when he was witness to some UAP events that he testified to at Congress. He was responsible for protecting some of the most sensitive missile defense installations in the United States. And his recent testimony to Congress, I think, was was quite important because he was the first, I think he was the first non-celebrity witness to come forward. And that's important because you have hundreds, thousands of people in the U.S. military services and, of course, elsewhere, but we're thinking of the U.S. now, who have been witness to UAP events. They've had UAP close encounters, and as we know from Ia's presentation today, there are a lot of reasons, not just stigma, that these things don't get reported and discussed. So we offered some very powerful testimony to Congress, and having been there that day, the energy in the room that he set by being the first witness was strong, and it affected a lot of members. So let's welcome him. And his family is with him today in the front row. So, yeah, there we go. So, Jeff, tell us a little bit about, who you are from having been in the service in the Air Force, what you did there, and maybe recap some of those events for people who haven't heard of them that you were a kind of secondary witness to, and then tell us a bit about, why you were the one who came forward to Congress to testify about some of that stuff.
Great. Thank you, everyone. It is an honor and a privilege to be here, and I want to thank Sol, Peter, and Gary, and everyone, and all of you for supporting us and giving us a voice. So thank you very much. I grew up in a small coal mining town outside of Pittsburgh. My father was a coal miner. My grandfather was a coal miner. And when I was 18 years old, my sister had joined the Air Force a year before I did, and we've got a lot of veterans in our family. So I joined when I was 18, became a security forces member. And what security forces do, we have a law enforcement mission, typical military policing, but our primary focus is on security. So we guard and secure our nation's most critical assets, from nuclear weapons on down to brand new next generation technology, advanced aircraft, so top secret. And a lot of what I did during the global war on terror, some of what I did was crash recovery. So we had advanced aerospace systems, unmanned systems that were brand new, next generation tech, and sometimes they would crash. And I would fly out on a helicopter, some remote location with a team, and we would guard that site until they could come in and recover the technology. So I was exposed to operations like that, but nothing out of the ordinary. This was all regular technology, just highly advanced. So I got a good sense of, what the capabilities of our military are, especially the Air Force. So it's kind of, let me jump to Vandenberg. So in 2003, it was a regular day, and I showed up to work to run a night shift. And when I showed up to work, there was a crowd waiting to talk to me, and they were very excited. And they were excited because we had a real-world UFO incident that occurred that morning at 0845 hours. And very rapidly, I realized that this was not a joke or a prank. It was being taken very seriously. And the atmosphere was mostly excitement, disbelief. There was just this incredible energy. And so I went up, I got a briefing on it, and that is the case that came up in the first hearing with David Grush, Ryan Graves, and David Fravor. So I had already gone to Aero with some information in Congress, so that came up in the hearing. And what had happened was Boeing contractors were working on a national missile defense site. So this was next generation technology, top secret, highly advanced. And they walked out of their workstation, and hovering over them at low altitude was a gigantic 100-meter red glowing square. So, these individuals looked up in disbelief. They went in, they picked up the phone, and they reported it, and that is how my friends, the police, got involved. So there was an investigation. There was nothing on radar. There were no weather balloons or aircraft. So this was definitely an anomalous object, and it was a structured craft. So that day, luckily for me, I had a habit. Anytime something extraordinary happened that I was involved in, I would go up and make copies of the paperwork. And that's a trick that I had learned, early in my career. So I had the documentation from that incident, including the witness statements, the handwritten witness statements from the contractors, sworn written statements. And I maintained that paperwork, for 22 years. I never knew what to do with it or where to go with it. There was nowhere to go, and I'm very fortunate that I kept that paperwork, because I believe that's the only reason that I have a voice in this movement. So,
Okay. So I want to talk a bit about your background, because I think that has a lot to do with why you were motivated to testify, and why you're also seeking to be a voice for UAP whistleblowers. You grew up in West Pennsylvania, very working class area of the United States, and there are a couple things in your background that influence your choices today.
Right. So. My family, so 1968, I believe, my father's a young man in a small coal mining town called Cokeburg, Pennsylvania. My father was a coal miner. And one evening, they saw a gigantic fireball come screaming in from outer space. My father said it was so large and so bright and incredible that it just beggared the mind, and they thought it crashed right over the hill in Cokeburg. So my dad and his buddies ran over the hill looking for this meteor that came in, but it didn't land in Cokeburg. It landed 40 miles west in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. And some of you might be familiar with that incident. That is the Kecksburg UFO crash, allegedly. And my godfather actually was in Kecksburg when it crashed. So my father, that's all he saw. And then, the aftermath of that event and the sensationalism about the Army coming in and recovering a craft. He heard all those rumors, but he didn't know if it was true. So when I was a kid, he would tell me about that. And leading up to the hearing, I had this strange sense that I had been in this situation before. And then it all kind of sunk in one day when my daughter came in while I was working on my speech. And I realized, I've kind of been here before. So what happened was, back in 1970, my father was a union member in the coal mine. He worked in the coal mine. And there was a rebellion happening within the coal mine. So the union was at war with themselves. The union had become corrupt and was under investigation by the federal government for rigging elections. And they were using the energy crisis of the 70s to try to force my father and the other coal miners to sign the worst deal possible. And they had come out of years of fighting for good benefits and benefits for widows and good pay. And they had won those battles, but now they were in threat of losing everything again. And my father said the most contentious point was, under this new contract, if you died in the mine, if your widow earned more than $200 a month, she lost all benefits, all medical, everything. So the coal miners would not sign that contract. So they were on strike, and it was violent. In 1969, on New Year's Eve, my father's mentor and good friend, who was trying to become the president of the union, was murdered. They came into his house, they shot him, his wife, and his daughter. So this was very serious. And at the same time, the federal government was threatening the coal miners. They were threatening to use Taft-Hartley to make them go back to work for 60 days. And if they refused to do that, they said, we're sending in the Army and the U.S. Marshals. And my father and his friends stood up and said, you'll have to kill us. We're not going back underground with this contract. And I was about 4 years old when this was playing out. And it kind of struck me that I'm here now with my 4-year-old daughter in the same position, trying to speak truth to power, trying to be treated fairly and with dignity and respect. And there are forces trying to silence me and do the equivalent of signing that bad contract and disappearing. So that struck me that, my father had seen a UFO, my father had fought the federal government, but my father won, and the Union won. They marched down to Washington, D.C. with 50,000 coal miners, and they held a rally. And the government caved, and they got a good contract. So the power of the people brought in focus is effective. So my father won that fight, and the fight that we're fighting now is just beginning. So thank you.
Mike, I want to pause this for a second. That's a pretty good analogy as far as what he's just brought up, as far as the federal government trying to bring in and shut people up.
Yeah, and the fact that the people had to rise up to push back against it, and it was part of his family history.
Yeah,
I think it's appropriate with what he's been doing so far.
Now, if we could just get all the people out there who have all the information that they have that they're hiding and keeping locked away, bring it out and just dump it for the truth. That's kind of what we need. We need that catastrophic disclosure, I feel. Yeah.
In some way, form, or fashion. It's the only way that the government is going to do something about this.
Yeah.
Like Jeff Nuccitelli just talked about, they weren't going to give them the contract. They weren't going to concede.
Nope.
But when the people rose up and they had to deal with it head on, they gave in. That's basically what we need now.
Exactly.
What's been going on. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and continue. Here we go. Thanks for the feedback.
Okay, so, having that in your background, I think it's given you both a lot of empathy for military and intelligence whistleblowers who know about UAP secrecy or have been involved in it, but also clearly a lot of determination about not just helping them, but winning the battle. So can you say more about, who you're talking to? I know we can't go into specifics, and what they're going through among the whistleblowers.
Yeah, so the way I see it, the first hearing, David Grush kicked in the door. And behind that door was Dylan Borland, Matthew Brown, and many, many others that are unknown. And everyone wants to know the truth. And the only way to get to that truth is to talk to the people that know the truth. And those people cannot come out and speak the truth because they are not safe. So let me give a little bit of background. I'm going to speak about my very good friend Dylan Borland and how he got involved, and maybe that'll give you some context about the seriousness of the situation. So there are many whistleblowers that are not known. They've been in this fight for 13 years on their own. They have lost their clearances. They went through incredible harassment at work. They lost their livelihoods, destroyed their social networks. Some of them ended up divorced and alone and broken. And many of those individuals are still in that state now, and they don't have anywhere to go. So Dylan knows many of these people, and he has been supporting them. They have a network. And a few years ago, things got so serious that they believed that their lives were in very serious jeopardy. And the plan that they had formulated to protect themselves, Dylan was what you call the dead man switch. He volunteered that if the situation got to the point where they felt that their lives were in danger, that Dylan would be the one to come forward and disclose. And this would be the equivalent of catastrophic disclosure from these unknown whistleblowers. So Dylan did that. He is the most reluctant whistleblower, I think, probably in history. So Dylan went to Congress with the information. He told Congress what was happening and what they feared was going to happen to their friends and families. Congress tried to help, and they sent him to Arrow. And then things got bad. So what happened was Dylan gave his testimony. He told them everything from the beginning about his childhood, his life, everything he had seen, all the details. And then when he was done, they said, "Thank you. We're classifying this top secret, and you can never speak about it to anyone. And the only person that can declassify it would have to come from the executive branch. So thank you for the information. Now shut up and never speak again, because your life will be over. You will go to prison. You will be charged with espionage. Right? We might seek the death penalty." And then he had to go to the Inspector General, and things got worse. And things continued to get worse. The more he tried to help, the more he tried to protect his friends, the more pressure they applied.
Mike, does this sound familiar to you?
Oh, absolutely. The first mistake sounds to me like he went right into the lion's den. He went to Arrow. And what did they do? They made him classify everything under top secret and tell him, you can't talk about this.
Sign your new NDA. Let's double down on it and put as much pressure on it to remind him about the execution clause.
Yeah, and now we own you.
Yeah.
And that's it. Now you can't speak anymore about any of this, so you'll be gone.
And of course, the only place that can declassify it, the executive branch.
Right from the top, the president.
Yep.
Which you've been saying all along, the whole time.
Oh, yeah. Everyone always wants to blame the DOD, and granted, we've got good old Susan, and she's watching over anything, but she's just a small part of it. Granted, she is a pawn for the DOD, but she does handle everything for the entire federal government, so she may have a link to the executive branch as well, Mike.
Well, she works in the executive branch in the DOD, so yes, she does.
Yeah.
We know that. But yeah, it's what we have been preaching about here for a long time. This is all getting shut down. They know what they're doing, and it's only going to come from the top, or we're not going to get it.
Yep, exactly.
We're hearing him say this right now.
Yep, let's continue on. Just wanted to pause on that and just make it obvious. Here we go.
And he's been dealing with that for 13 years.
Wow. So,
and I would like to briefly mention that Dylan grew up about 30 miles from where I grew up, and about 30 miles from where David Grush grew up. So we all come from the same background, blue collar, working class, people that love our country and volunteer to serve our country. And no one deserves that. So.
And just so everyone here and also everyone later, watching video of this talk knows what we're talking about. What are the things that Dylan and others know? Broadly put.
So broadly, I could say in general terms that they have touched the legacy program that so many of us desperately want to know the truth about, and that's who these people are. They're people that worked on these programs, that have the information that we want. Dylan, his career is extraordinary. He is basically the special forces of data analyst. I mean, I've seen his performance reports. The missions that he worked on and supported are some of the most important missions that happened in the global war on terror. So this is not an average person. He was selected to do some of the hardest work.
Really quick, Mike, I want to address a question from the audience here. They're asking, why does he keep on reinforcing that he's from the working class? Probably my guess would be, Mike, is he's trying to point that he's worked his ass off to get where he is. It's not like he was born with a silver spoon up his ass.
Right. So he wants the public to know that he's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no confusion because he's wearing a suit and up on stage.
Bingo.
I got it. I think that answers the question.
Absolutely. So here we go.
There. And I'm sorry, what else?
No, that it was just to have a sense of who these folks are and what they know. So let's shift gears a little bit. You've had your own encounter with UAP, and I think that's also really affected why you were motivated to go to Congress and why you're motivated, I think, to continue speaking out publicly. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I lived through the Vandenberg incursions from 2003 to 2005. And I spoke about 5 incidents. There are many more, and more are coming. More people are reaching out. But what happened with me, well, let me back up a little bit. One of the incidents I talked about was a landing. We had one of these craft land on Vandenberg Air Force Base, just for a moment. It was there for 30 seconds, and then it shot off. And after that incident, the tone changed. Prior to that, there was no stigma. The Air Force was taking this seriously. No one was calling any of us hoaxsters because we knew, it was obvious this was real. But after that landing, everything changed. And my good friend Grant Best, who witnessed it, was called in by OSI, and he was intimidated and harassed. And they suggested that maybe we should stop calling in these lights. And they suggested that maybe we were making up things. And they suggested maybe Grant shouldn't be deploying to Iraq in a few days. Maybe they should open an investigation and find out why he was trying to pull pranks. Right? So the tone changed. And the suggestion was stop calling this in. And it did have a chilling effect. And people stopped calling it in. But they didn't stop telling me about it. So 2 years go by, and I'm in my backyard on Vandenberg Air Force Base. My wife was in bed sleeping. It's like midnight, 1 a.m. I'd had a party, and 2 of my friends were left, and we were having a beer in the backyard around the fire. And my good friend Phoenix, it was her boyfriend Brandon and Phoenix. They're married and they've been together since that time. They still are. Phoenix noticed a light, and this was the pattern across almost every encounter. You see a light in the sky, it grabs your attention. You put your attention on the object, and then the object performs for you. It starts to dance in the sky or move erratically or do something strange with the light. So it's like you notice it and then it notices you. And that's what happened. Phoenix noticed it, and we all started to look at it, and we thought initially, I said, that's probably a satellite. But the light was strange, and it was pulsing. It didn't look like a satellite. It was too bright. And then when I was thinking that, I was trying to convince myself it's probably just a weird atmospheric effect. Then it performed for us. It fluttered like a butterfly or like a leaf in the wind. And then we knew, okay, we're seeing another one of these craft. And over a period of a few minutes, it came down and eventually was 200 feet over my house. And it was a 30 to 50 foot sphere or orb of pure light, but it looked solid. It looked structured. You could see the curve, but the light was weird. It wasn't radiating from the object. It wasn't lighting up the roof. It wasn't lighting up the yard. And we just stood.
That's the part where you know the guy is talking about something that's real, because a lot of times you'll be dealing with the light coming off the craft, It does illuminate, but it doesn't cast shadows. It's really weird. And there's all, I mean, Laura could talk about this in the back. We've talked about this in both of our experiences, but yeah, he's on target here, folks.
They're staring at it in awe, in shock, in disbelief. And then it slowly, gently started to accelerate, and we watched it for about 30 seconds, and it went up into the stars. And at that time, I was the non-commissioned officer in charge of the law enforcement program on the base. I was in a leadership position. So I picked up the phone, and it was all over again. Find out if we've got anything in the air or any radar tracks, and nothing. So that was my encounter at Vandenberg, and it changed everything for me. Because even though I knew that my friends and my coworkers were not lying, and these I was literally investigating these incidents as they unfolded, I still had that doubt, and I needed to see it for myself, and that happened. So since that day, nothing has been the same for me, and nothing has been the same for my friends. They still think about it. They still wonder about it. So that's my motivation for coming out. All these military members, men and women who have served their country and have seen something strange, something that's not supposed to exist, need a voice. And the American people and the people of the entire world need to know that this is real, that reality is classified, that the world is more mysterious and more enchanted and more beautiful than we have been told to believe.
Bingo. Yeah, that's the tagline, Gene. Reality is classified. Would you agree on that?
I agree. You know, and I don't use tagline as something that it need, you know, it's become his tagline.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, it's literally becoming the brand, you know, and you see in the chat, there's a number of people, and I've been joining in there on it too. Listen, I like Jeff. I've talked to him. I've talked to him actually before he appeared, you know, in Congress. We came out of the same career field. I was in that field, you know, years earlier. Vandenberg was actually supposed to be the first base that I went to after graduating the Security Forces Academy. But instead I wound up getting selected to go to DC for the Presidential Honor Guard. So, I mean, well, I don't know if we want to get into it now or get into it later.
I guess we
finish talking.
I guess we can let him finish talking. We can come back.
That it's kind of like jumping the shark, where this is becoming, I think the criticisms people have are legitimate, that it is feeling less like an authentic story and more like a crafted narrative. And, you know, he's doing things and making moves that make it feel and sound and look a lot more like trying to establish a brand around this, for a number of purposes. And again, not disparaging, not, you know, saying grifting or anything like that, but it feels wrong, or it sounds wrong because it's a little disingenuous. And, you know, there's several issues with some of the smaller details that, again, I think are being stretched or dramatized, rather than just staying within factual lanes, you know, trying to do some things to position this. And I just don't think it's helpful to the mission.
Yeah.
I agree with Gene on that 100%. I get the same impression. Some things are just out of whack. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Daryl, your hand is up as well.
Yeah, I'm curious, Gene, do you think the base story is true? It sounds like what you're saying, he's like embellishing quite a bit and creating his own brand.
Yeah. So, okay. So where am I with him? I'm with him. Totally believe, you know, showed up, people talking about seeing something. Total believe. Great. He saw something, couldn't explain it, and all of that. That's pretty much where it ends, right? when the job, again, as a flight chief, right? The idea that you're, going and you're, number one, vast majority of the reports by the time when I was in, we were still typewriting stuff and using carbon paper, right? By the time he was in, everything was fully automated and you're just emailing the reports everywhere. So, he printed up the reports, the, witness statements, yes, would still be handwritten, and he's maintained copies of all of those things. So, number one, that's kind of a violation to begin with anyway, but all right, good on him. He knew, down the road, this was something he was going to come out with. Then the question becomes, okay, well, then why didn't you just, throw those out there? You're talking about that you have them. So you've admitted that you've had them. You admitting that at that time in your role, you broke the rules. You made copies of what's not classified, but sensitive information. So just go ahead, redact the names and, and put it out there to support the story. But none of that's happened. In that role of flight chief, he's not investigating any of this, right?
No.
That is not part of the job. If there were suspicious aircraft, suspicious objects over the base, that is going to be the wing command, Air Force OSI, the people who fly and monitor the skies are investigating. So, all he's doing is, maybe collecting the witness statements of anyone who's calling the security forces squadron to report seeing something. And then that instantly, the desk sergeant, because I was one, picks up the phone and calls the command post. And then the command, and then you await the orders from the duty officer at the command post as to what they want the security forces on duty to do. And by that time you'd be calling, you call the command post, then you would call your operations NCO, perhaps the operations officer, perhaps the commander of the squadron, is then going to call in to get briefed. All of that, your commander, security forces, ops officers, the NCOs, that is not involving, the flight sergeant.
So there is a base story there that's true, though, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Base story. There again, same thing with Dylan Borland, right? I do not, and I had some discussions not recently with some folks who were aware of that case. Again, somebody who saw what they saw. Would never, take that away or try and dispute that. People see what they see, they report what they report. They believe in what it is they believe in. But then the order of magnitude begins to get a little out of whack for the rank that you're at. And the things that you're discussing that you're involved in, to the degree in which you may be involved in them, just becomes really misaligned. And, I think there is, in Jeff's case, even in that period of time, from what we've seen in many other situations, and, just like he was talking about in the Air Force with, exotic technology and things like that, which was another thing that jumped out at me, if anyone else noticed, right? He starts off, in this introduction, he's talking about being part of crash retrievals. Oh, not necessarily crash retrievals or UAPs, but, exotic technologies, Again, maybe another base he was at, he was, if he was out west, he might have been more involved in that. Again, I find it interesting. This convention is the first time he talks about that as part of the job duties. Never came up before, never came up in the congressional term, the terminology. Oh, I was part of crash retrievals. And that felt like walking it back a little bit. And again, that's an inherent part of the job. In 95, when the labor secretary was on, crashed into the side of a mountain in Bosnia, I was part of the crash retrieval, providing security. The special forces, Air Force pararescue and stuff went in and, did their things, and they began, actually removing the aircraft and moving it. Willow Grove, Pennsylvania, A-10 goes into the woods. We go set up a national security area. So, that's why I say there's some areas here of dramatization that start making it feel uncomfortable and start making me question it more and start making me think more. Somebody like Dylan Borland as an airman first class, again, yes, the programs that he worked on are important. Those are inherent to the jobs. That is the job that you have. He didn't do those things because he was Dylan Borland, A1C superstar. He did it because that's the job. Right. And so it's not like you were selected for it because they recognized your brilliance or anything like that. That's
is this the kind of guy we want? Is this the kind of guy we want testifying before Congress?
Well, I think his testimony before Congress was phenomenal, right? It was great. He is a non-commissioned officer. He witnessed things. He had people that worked for him and with him that witnessed things, and he was able to articulate that magnificently, right? It's this mission that's developed afterwards, with the GoFundMe's for whistleblowers, all of these other this cloak and dagger secret network of people, hiding in caves and shadows and, putting baby powder on their cars because they're afraid there's going to be explosives on them in the morning. That's where you start getting into some of the dramatics of this. I think, Thomas, we saw it earlier in the weekend. What was the other reporter that was like, oh, if I'm not suicidal again.
Oh, that was recently Matt Ford from the Good Trouble Show. Yeah,
Matt Ford. I mean, and listen, and I got a lot of sympathy. Again, I lived my entire adult life in the jobs that I had under threat of death. You know it when you have it.
Yeah.
And you live your life in a different way. It changes, how I live my life now. I'm not getting that authentic vibe from these people because ultimately you do learn nobody's going to let you know ahead of time when they're coming to get you.
Gene, this is a little confused about how can he be authentic before Congress and not here? I mean, is he authentic or is he not authentic?
Well, when he's telling the part of the story about, I was, drinking beers and I saw the thing up in the sky and I went into work. All of that is his core story.
That's the non-sensational part.
That's the non-sensational part. The other things where, I'm making copies of documents and I'm that's where it starts getting into.
Gotcha.
I start questioning because, okay, so if you were making copies of the documents, then you knew that this was potentially something big. Then you were planning on bringing it out and bringing it forward. So where are they? Where are they, right?
Where are the papers? He said that he has, right?
Yeah. Stuff dropped.
Couldn't he have been court-martialed?
What's that?
Could he have been court-martialed for what he was doing?
Well, again, he could have been disciplined, but he wasn't. He was active duty when this happened. He wasn't active duty when he came out and started talking about it.
Right.
He'd already fulfilled his obligations. So, again, it's you're talking about doing it. They're not necessarily gonna, call you back to active duty to prosecute you because you copied witness statements and things. But it's just this thing of it just suddenly starts coming out. There's suddenly additions to the story. There's suddenly new angles and twists that make you start thinking whatever. So somebody just asked why 16 years. depending, he very well may have gotten, they have sometimes they start offering 15-year retirements. I think he left as a technical sergeant. So depending on like how many times he tested for master sergeant, he might have not made master sergeant, and it didn't look like he was going to make it. So he was able to take an early retirement.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
One last question for my interview with Gene Sticco during the disclosure.
We can get back to the disclosure, but
Bingo,
sorry,
yeah.
Thomas.
Right.
Just one more thing. Do you think, because this it seems like Rendlesham Forest. Do you think Rendlesham Forest and the people that came out of that kind of had the similar, okay, after action embellishment, and is that possible?
You know, I mean, it's possible. I think, you know, to a degree, right? So there's a certain, in any kind of event, right? Significant event. There's the initial memories, you know, you have and you recall, and then there's things that you start recalling later. There's things you begin second guessing. And then there's other things that the more additional witnesses you talk to or people you begin to talk to, begin reframing your own experience.
Right.
And I think being embedded in this and all of the conversations and the way questions are asked, right? The way these guys pose the questions, you know, they want the story. Any of them will tell you. I have talked to people who are, you know, again, brilliant figures in the media space of this, who will remind you this is also, you know, their job is also entertainment. And
Is that where the brand comes in you're talking about?
And that's why I think, that's why I think the brand comes in. I think, you know, he wants to be seen as the leader of this protect the whistleblower movement, right? So that's what he started the GoFundMe. He's got, you know, reality is, you know, classified, if I'm remembering it correctly. You know, he signs off all of his tweets that way, which is great. Again, to me, it's just, you know, stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Right. You have an experience to share. You have a good career that you were in. Share your experience. You know, don't go too far. You know, keep some kind of guardrails. And it just feels like he's trying to make a movement here that isn't necessarily his to make.
But their movement that they've gotten so far has gotten about $8,000, not even $8,000 on GoFundMe, and going for lawyers to protect people. That's like a drop in an ocean of money that you actually need.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, for the numbers of people that he alludes to, right? So they all need rent. They all, you know, I mean, I have somehow in my mind, I've got, you know, okay, well, is it like 13, 15, 20 people that they know? Is it 2? Right? How far is 10 grand? 10 grand's not going to go anywhere, you know, whether you're paying for legal or trying to pay for rent or, you know, and again, it's been a decade or so for most of these people who have been involved. So, you know, they have day jobs, they have, what else do they have going on, right? Just because you used to have a clearance and you can't work, you know, in that field anymore as a civilian contractor for an aerospace agency does not mean you do not have any other skills that are transferable or of high value to any number of other companies.
Heck, get a pressure washer. Pressure washing businesses are the greatest way to go ahead and start and earn a huge income.
A good friend of mine from high school who also joined the Air Force, he was a fireman. He has his own pressure washer business in the greater Boston area.
Bingo.
Phenomenal, makes phenomenal money.
Oh,
right?
God, yeah. You'll make $500 in an hour or two. It's crazy, but let's go ahead and get back to this. Yeah. We'll talk more afterwards. Great conversation, though, Gene. Appreciate it. And everybody in the back. Here we go.
And that's what this is about. Let people speak the truth. Right? Let us make our own decisions.
So, Jeff, we were talking a couple weeks ago, and we were talking just before this conversation, and you've made a really good point to me on both occasions, which is that these encounters can both be very inspiring and exhilarating for people, but they also can cause a lot of trauma. And you've said that, there's a link between that trauma and the trauma that the whistleblowers are going through. So maybe you can elaborate.
Yeah, these patterns emerge. And, my experience was positive in almost every regard. And I think that's because I was with friends. I didn't have to convince anybody that I was not lying or making anything up or crazy. So I had a really solid footing under me. And throughout the years, a few years would go by and this would all kind of be out of my head for a little bit, and then it would come rushing back. And I could call these people, say, hey man, did that really happen? Are we crazy? And then we'd be on the phone for 5 hours, right, talking about it. So I was in a good position, but some of my other friends weren't, and they had to try to integrate this experience into their, normal waking life. And that can be extremely difficult. So, it's hard enough to deal with situations like this just for your average, regular, everyday person, right? You see something that's not supposed to be real. You wonder if you're crazy. You wonder if there's something wrong with you. You try to talk yourself out of it. And it could cause serious disruption to your life. But then take it and apply that to a military member or an intelligence agent. And not only do they have to try to integrate the experience, but now they're under threat. They're being retaliated against, right? So it's doubly bad. Not only are you trying to figure out what's real, but now you're being attacked for it. And that's the real question, right? Like, why? Why, this happens over and over again. You go out for a cigarette, you look up, you see something that's not supposed to be real. And you go, you tell your friends about it, maybe you report it to your supervisor, and then your life falls off a cliff. And it's like, why? If it's our tech, why are you showing us? Right? And then punishing us for seeing it. Right? It doesn't make sense. So, this whole thing is a mystery. And it's a mystery because we're not allowed to ask questions. We are not allowed to hear from the people that might know what's going on. So why is reality classified? That's the question, and that's the fight we're in. Right.
So I got another question for you. What are your thoughts on, you've had an experience about what's going on the other end? You've told me that you feel like we've got things a bit upside down, that it's not we who are seeing UAP, that they're seeing us.
Yeah, and that's something I think we really need to explore, right? Because it's this interaction I keep talking about. Like, you notice it, and then it notices you. And, that's not a machine. That's conscious. That's intelligent, right? So it's fairly obvious that we are under observation, but why? So I think we need to start looking at this from a different angle. Like, maybe it's not that we're looking for them, maybe they're looking for us, right? Or something like that. But there is an interaction. The patterns are there, right? But sometimes not. Sometimes you just see the light and it does its thing and zips off. But sometimes it comes down to say hello. And my experience was positive, but some are terrifying, these abductions and on and on. And then also, I've been within 200 feet of one of these things. And we know that some people have been injured, right? That's how Gary Nolan got involved. People were injured by these things. So we need to know what we're dealing with. We need to know what we're what we're asking our service members to engage with, right?
So we've got a lot of people at this meeting who come out of government, they come out of the sciences and academia, they come out of technology, the private sector, people who have different degrees of institutional power.
And different degrees of wealth.
What can we all do to help whistleblowers and help witnesses?
That's the crux. And the way I see it, the battle for disclosure begins now. We need support. So we need funds, we need expert legal advice and support, and we need the ability. What we're trying to do is we're gonna flip the table, and it's gonna be whistleblowers protecting and supporting whistleblowers. And everyone here can support that in your own way. We need expertise. We need in all fields, medical field, what are the effects? Have people been injured? What is the psychological ramifications, right? Is there protocols, is there counseling that could be available, right? But one of the most important things is you have to relieve the stress from these people so that they could come back into the light. And most of them are unemployable. And it's bizarre. They can't even get a job at Home Depot. They can't even get a minimum wage.
Oh my. The expression on your face at that one, Gene, was just like,
come on, really, come on.
Come on, guys.
What's the matter, Gene? He's not laying it on too thick?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm speechless. It's just, in your worst case scenario, you go to Leavenworth and you get a dishonor. Okay, I'll give you a case. I know of a case of a guy in Germany who decapitated his wife's lover's head, brought it to her in the hospital while she was in the hospital giving birth to the other guy's baby, went to jail, got out, and is gainfully employed.
Right.
All right. So,
that's getting ahead of his troubles.
Yeah,
it is.
It's giving me a headache.
The funny thing was, I was like, I didn't realize what the guy was doing, and I had taken him outside for a cigarette from the holding cell. I was like, so what'd they get you for? And he's like, I cut off my wife's boyfriend's head. And I was like, oh yeah, you're the guy. Well, let's get you back inside. But it's this idea that, you're totally unemployed. I mean, if what he is trying to say is the emotional trauma of what they experienced was such that they are unemployable, right? Then they would still, as veterans, be in the VA system. They would have VA disability. If they're totally and permanently, unemployable because of some aspect of their military service, they would be entitled to, not only the VA disability, but their Social Security disability as well.
But I heard there's a bunch of disabled people who are actually on X living in their parents' house, and they make a good money off of that. So even that, there's a chance to be a troll over on X about this.
I mean, there's 100 ways, and that's why I'm saying, if your situation was such that you lost your clearance, didn't maintain your clearance, couldn't find a job in a field where you could transfer, and you didn't have your listen, my clearance was done in 2020, when the hell was it? Like 2020. I've lived since then. So yeah. I mean, and now I'll contribute, and this was part of what got me involved in this as well, because I'm with them in the sense that, yes, historically, I get it. People's lives have been ruined but I don't think it is as much in the modern era, let's say, of disclosure as it was in the 40s, 50s, the early days and things like that. And I think particularly, when you're talking about military people who reported things within their chain of command and kept it all within their chain of command, unless they did something that crossed lines, as noble as they think they might have been, right? And honestly, I question, even in the Dylan Borland scenario, did he get in trouble because, yes, he had a clearance that allowed him insight into other areas, but it was not need to know. And he made it upon himself for it to be need to know. And perhaps that's where some of the troubles, came in. Again, some of these stories just don't sit right in the, in the grand scale of things. Could be wrong.
Let's take a look at Nuccitelli.
But,
What's his story?
I've made it to have this, I've made it around the world to have this shading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By not being wrong about a lot of stuff.
I don't think you are wrong. But let's look at Nuccitelli's story. He was off duty as an NCO at his house on base.
Yep.
With his wife.
Yep.
They were having a late night party. This was what, 0100 hours?
Yep.
1 a.m.? And they were drinking beers in the backyard. And he saw a light in the sky at night for 30 seconds. And that's it. Well, you can't write a book with an experience like that, can you?
And that's why I think this feels disingenuous, right? So there's a period of time, there's activities, he sees something, just stop there.
Right.
Stop. That is your contribution. Don't start trying to frame it and make it more than
it was.
Like a James Bond thriller.
Right.
Instead of what it really was.
What it may be. And that's where, that's why I think, I know for myself, and maybe that's what other people are reading into, is that, I don't, somehow he's in that network, he's in that circle, and
because he testified.
Seems like he's being and what got him in there to testify, right?
Yeah.
This story.
And right, and how's that story compared to anybody else's story? It's just the willingness to tell it or whatnot. I don't know.
It's a story. There's no physical evidence. There's no pictures. There was nothing to back it up. It's just a story. I hate to say it.
But there could be, because he took all these documents. So where's all the documents? Where's all the witness?
Yeah, even Lou admitted going ahead and hiding him in the neighbor's barbecue next door.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and
saying.
Yeah. We get about 6 minutes left. Let's watch the rest of this and we'll have some more fun. Here we go, folks.
Each job, right? So some of these people are in dire need, right? Their lives have fallen apart. They're well trained. They're intelligent people. They had good careers, and now all that's gone. So we need funding. That's what we need. So we can give direct payments to these people so they can pay their bills to get their lives back on track, so they can start to heal, so they can afford insurance, right? So we need money. We also need expertise in multiple domains. And we also need good vibes. We need your love. We need your support. We need your energy. And
a lot of us involved in talking to the U.S. government, other governments, to academia about what disclosure might involve, why it should happen, how to do it without it being catastrophic. We're thinking about large-scale ramifications and effects of this. But what do you think is somebody who has had experiences, who's right down there with whistleblowers, and who's also made, it's an American story, the trip to Capitol Hill to speak on behalf of, not just whistleblowers, but hundreds of thousands of people who've seen this stuff. What do you think human beings need from the U.S. government about this? We know there's a government component that knows a lot about it. We know Congress is starting to become aware. What should be done?
You mean as far as?
Well, what should be done for people who have experienced this, who know about it? What do you want to see the government do?
I want to see the government stop punishing people for doing their duty. That's step one. We need the government to tell us what is going on. I don't think they will, and that's why Sol and these other organizations are so important. We're probably going to have to do the work our own, and we might be behind, but we can do the work, right? But what really needs to happen is we need to know that we live in a free, open society and a democracy. It doesn't feel like we have any control over our own government. It doesn't sometimes feel like Congress has any control over our own government. So there's got to be some kind of reset. And I think this could be the one unifying thing that we can all band together. So imagine if you had all these grassroots political organizations based solely on, do you support whistleblower protection and disclosure? And to do that is very tricky because you have to put aside all your political, religious beliefs and things and support people you may be opposed to in Congress, right? But we have to have some kind of grassroots voting block, district by district. And the only question to ask is, are you supporting whistleblowers and disclosure? And if the answer is yes, you get our vote, Democrat or Republican or anything in between. So we've got to find a way, people have got to find a way to get the power back and get control of our own government.
But I hate to say the reality behind that statement, to go ahead and say, we want to elect people into office who can go ahead and will stand behind going and bringing up disclosure, either Mike or Gene on this one. The main problem is that it's been admitted by Burleson lately that it's Congress has no power to bring forward disclosure, and it has to come from the executive branch, period. It's either going to be that or some whistleblower who's going to come out with evidence that really gets the public and forces catastrophic disclosure, or it's going to come from a foreign entity like Putin or Z.
Something like that. But I want to get back to the statement that when we resume the video, what Jeff was actually saying. He's claiming, like Gene pointed out, that these former military members, after drinking numerous beers late at night, a light up in the sky for 30 seconds, now they can't get medical care, legal representation, they have bills to pay, they need the public to...
Now, was he talking about those whistleblowers specifically, or whistleblowers in general, like Dylan and Matthew and the other ones who claim they're having a hard time getting a job in their career line at this point?
But like Gene pointed out as well, if they're former military, they get pensions, they have medical care through the VA, they can get any type of mental health that they feel that they're having a crisis.
Right.
They have legal firms that you and I are well aware of that will represent any whistleblower or former government worker out there for absolutely free, pro bono.
Yeah.
Plenty of them.
Yeah.
So everything he's complaining about, these things exist already. But what doesn't exist already is the point that he made at the end. What do you need? What do you want? Peter Skafish asked him. Well, we need dough like anyone.
We need money.
Need someone to help pay our bills. Money.
We want
That's
money.
what we need from the public. Money.
Yeah.
Because there's another organization on it's Sean Munger is a lawyer, former Marine,
I know Sean.
here in the Massachusetts area. They run an organization, and they're if
They
you
have
are
a large law firm, and they will represent any whistleblower for free. I talked to Sean. Right.
nationally, and they will represent, and and those are the guys who should be going forward and saying, hey, we have X number of whistleblowers, and all right, we need to raise money, have a fundraiser, do whatever to offset some of these costs. I mean, it's and again, I think it's this getting our minds around what is really a whistleblower, what is somebody with information that we might need. Again, we might need some guardrails and parameters around, right?
Yeah.
Just because somebody was serving and saw a light in the sky, saw an object, saw a triangle, saw an orb, whatever it is, does that mean they're a whistleblower, right? By definition, no, you're a witness of something, and nobody can classify that. Nobody can classify your memory, right? Nobody can classify what it is that you experienced. Now, in the course of your role and responsibilities, you saw something that crossed your desk. That's a different story, right? Things, sit in there. So, and the reasons for coming forward, just to post an unpopular, position, or, even seemingly playing devil's advocate, on behalf of the government. Again, as a military member, just because you think that everybody should know about it does not mean that everybody should know about it.
Right.
Regardless of what the issue is. You are serving, that is part of your service now, and that's why the whole whistleblower system was essentially established, because when you witness something that is truly criminal, that is truly fraud, waste, and abuse, there are those mechanisms. That's what that whole program and all those mechanisms were established for, right? They weren't established for, I saw something I know or think is of alien origin, and I think the world needs to know about it.
Which are two different things. It's like a horse of another color. And I just want to clarify something for the audience, because they keep confusing crash retrieval, and they think it automatically means UFO. So you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Gene, but in the military, in the Air Force, don't they have the DART team, DART, downed aircraft recovery team? If there's an aircraft that comes down, they're supposed to go out and recover it. That doesn't mean UFO. That doesn't mean aliens, right?
Right. Exactly. I mean, and when there is any kind of crash, there is an entire, there's a safety office. There's safety officers that go out when it crashes and it, hits civilian territory. The national, the Transportation Safety Board comes out. Like I said, I was involved. There was a A-10 that crashed when I was in New Jersey. It crashed in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania, and I had to take a group of guys out to some road in the middle of nowhere, off the end of the airfield, and establish what we call a national security area, and just keep it cordoned off until the civilian and military authorities conducted their investigation of the crash and recovered the craft. The plane, the aircraft. So, it's part of the job.
It is. So I think, though, that when the audience hears them talking about recoveries, they automatically assume, oh, it's a UFO and an alien we're going to get. No, it isn't. Part of their normal duties have to do with aircraft that come down and them recovering it.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's convoluted in the language, and believe me, there's been times I've been talking to people and telling the story pre-interviews for other interviews and things like that, and they try to frame things, and I'm and stupid me, I'm like, no, you're making it sexier than it is.
You're embellishing.
Scale it back. So again,
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I know. And he's trying to paint a picture for the audience that he's talking to right now and the public that hears this, and tell them that these poor people that drank a lot of beers and at 1 o'clock in the morning saw a light up in the sky, now any form of military, they're not able to get gainful employment, but they have bills like everybody
I think
else.
he may
They
be
need money.
talking about other whistleblowers besides the people that were at that party, Mike.
Well, I'm using him as an example, but yeah, I understand that. The point is, he's saying that any of these people are unable to get gainful employment or pay their bills. The only choice they have right now is they have to get a bucket, piss in it, and then throw it on the windshield of cars at a stoplight and try to get change from these people. I think that's laying it on just a little too fucking thick.
and again, you know, in my past life and past careers and the multitude of things that I've seen and experienced that are considerably, I hate to say it, considerably higher priorities, let's say, in terms of national security and political interest, right?
Right.
You know, and the risks that are associated with this, I've never seen such dramatizations, you know,
Yeah.
of people who come forward and speak out. You know, again, I was a big oil whistleblower, right?
Yeah, you are.
It's the same, you know, same thing. And I know other whistleblowers. I know people whose lives have been ruined, people who were injured, and then they came out, you know, as whistleblowers and couldn't get, you know, and legitimately couldn't get medical assistance and couldn't get this, that, and the other because they didn't have the things like the government provides when you're, you know, a military veteran. So that's why I say it's almost as though, for me, like I'm looking at this UAP community as this, you know, it almost tries to make itself its own microcosm environment that is immune from the rules of the rest of life and the world and the way the government operates, and when in reality it's no different than other big national security issues that are happening in many parts of the government, right? I mean, that was sort of the purpose of me, you know, writing the second book about the oil and gas stuff, to show it's the same type of apparatus. It's not exclusive to the UAP community. And you know, and it all sort of functions the same way because it is ultimately intertwined and interwoven with the, you know, the government, as it might be. So
No, but for me, when you start to hear a plea for direct cash, it sends up all the red flags, and it's not a good look in any community and any of this. But now that we covered the video from Sol and we've recovered this, I think Thomas has some interesting videos about clicking. That's in the new Disclosure Day Steven Spielberg movie that's coming out. Right, Thomas?
Absolutely. Now, one of the things they're bringing up, if I can go ahead and find a clip of that in a second, I don't have it queued up right now, but one of the things that they were bringing up is there's this sound that there's a newscaster who starts talking of a mixed alien language with English and is making these different clicking noises and stuff. And as soon as I heard about that, one of the things it reminded me of is I've seen a video before of some people coming from the Kasayan tribe where they speak, there's a mix of English and their native language, but as they talk, if I crank this up and they mention their names, that's one example. Then I've got another one here of another guy who's just talking.
But we can't hear it back here. Oh, there we
Oh, no, I'm sorry about that in the back. Let me get this across. I know that was in my other browser, not in Brave. Let me get up to a new window on this, bring it up right now. Sorry for the people in the back who can't hear it. I'll get it to you. Here we go. Now everyone can hear this one. Here we go. So they involve these clicks and pops and other kind of stuff that are coming right from, you know, their mouth when they're talking, though. The interesting thing, talking about it again a second ago, was that the tribe from Kosayan actually talks about in the past that they were actually visited by non-human intelligence aliens, and it was a mantis being, insectoid. So, and if we, it's just one of those things that you look at and you hear the stuff that Spielberg's bringing out, and there are examples of that. Even the Zulu tribe in different areas, all throughout Southern Africa, they all have this integrated as part of their language. Corporal Abe, your hand is up, my friend.
The mute button is on it. It's still on it.
Okay. We'll see a little bit. Well, I think he's
He's otherwise engaged.
He's otherwise engaged at the moment. So yeah, interesting that we've got this, and there could be stuff out there, the trickster creator and stuff, and it's just when we see stuff that Spielberg is bringing forward, he's always seemed to have people on the inside that are kind of guiding him this way. Could this be something we're going towards? Who knows? But it's going to be out there in next June, right, Mike?
Yes, it's going to be out for the summer, and there'll be a lot of talk about this movie when it comes out. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he has to show us at this point.
Oh, so am I.
It'll be interesting. Yeah.
Now, one of the things. Go ahead.
You have to, depending on, like you said, like what he puts out there, there's going to be inside information that he got that he's incorporating into this movie, just like he did in the last one.
Close Encounters, exactly.
Right.
Now
we're going to get new information when we see what it is he's going to put into this film.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Exactly. Daryl, before we get to the plot thickens with Susan Collins. Go ahead, Daryl.
I'm still looking forward to the plot thickening. I do have a question, though, or a thought. I mean, just curious, when that movie airs, or I'm sorry, when it runs initially, what do you think the chances are that your subscribership or viewership goes up? Because, hey, disclosure tonight.
Disclosure Day. It ties into the movie. Good point.
Yeah.
Hello. I'm just wondering.
Click, click, pop, pop. Yep, exactly.
All right.
Could happen.
Exactly. All right. Plot thickens. Never heard of the UAPDA. Senator Props Chair Collins reacts to Burleson charge. Apparently, it sounds like, Mike, that Askapol, Matt Laszlo, is kind of, through Eric Burleson, is pointing the finger at Susan Collins staffers for actually shutting down the UAPDA in the Senate. Go figure.
Oh, the plot does thicken.
Yeah. Now, one of the things we'd say, why would Susan Collins do that? Because she should have retired 10, 20 years ago, and she is beyond her capacity. She's in her office. She's there. But she's like one of these people who's, dealing with the, Dianne
Feinstein.
The Feinstein Club, yeah.
Yeah, the Feinstein Club, the Joe Biden Club. Yeah, seems to be a lot of that.
Radio check.
We got you, Corporal Abe.
Hey, happy holidays. Sorry
Happy Merry Christmas, my friend. We can say that.
Merry Christmas. It's almost there. 5 days, 4 or 5 days.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Glad to be back. Go Disclosure.
Thanks, Abe. We appreciate that. Good to have you back.
Yeah.
So you were saying, Thomas?
Oh, back in, who would have thought it was Susan Collins' team? But people are thinking again, why does Susan Collins, would she allow her people to go ahead and do this? Because she's not at the wheel behind the organization. It's kind of like we're talking about weekend at Feinstein's or weekend at Biden's, where we had all these executive orders all being taken care of by who? Unelected bureaucrats, right? And what we're dealing with,
but nobody's home.
Right, and that's what we got with good old Susan Collins there, and Murkowski as well. Two of them who should retire. They are too old. They are beyond their age for being in office. And yes, they're there, but it's time to take that wig and put it back on the mannequin and retire.
Well, it sounds like you are a firm believer in term limits for a lot of these elder politicians.
Yeah.
They should put that in place, I think. You're right.
If they can't do it on their own and the voters can't do it on their own, either term limits or age limits, one of the two. We need it.
Or how about a faculty check? where they just have to pass certain amounts of proving that they're able to take responsibility.
Oh, we can't forget Mitch McConnell as well. My God, another one who should have retired a long time ago. Another one. You got, oh God, the Wolf of Wall Street, Nancy Pelosi, who's outperformed even, Berkshire Hathaway, the top trading firm in the world, and she outperforms him. Yeah, it's crazy. You know, why should people of Congress be able to have insider trading that the average American citizen can't have? It just seems really freaking corrupt.
A little one-sided, that they could break the law and we can't. Yeah, I agree.
Oh, yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Who made them
they get
king?
very wealthy off of it.
Who made them king?
Not us. We didn't agree to that.
Oh, hell no.
No way in hell. Right.
Oh, exactly. All right, let's see what else I've got here in the bookmarks. Nope, not going to deal with that one. Hold on.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Andy. Sorry about that. I know you had your hand up, but I didn't call on you. Go ahead.
Yeah, before you move on, I've just looked up, and do you know who helped fund Susan Collins on her campaign? One of her funders was, funny enough, Lockheed Martin.
Oh, really? No
and
shit.
It's on the Open Secrets website. So yeah, she's obviously got a bit of a vested interest. I don't know whether they threw a massive amount of money at her, but
oh, it doesn't matter. Whatever money they throw at her, she's obligated. So now we have a real answer, other than the one she's putting out there publicly, playing dumb. Why the UAPDA didn't pass, or why she wanted to block it. Good show, Andy.
Yeah.
Now we have more pieces of the puzzle on her office. Look at that. It's a small world after all.
Oh, and then some, my friend, and then some.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So what else you got in the hopper?
Looking through that. Nope. I'll save that for tomorrow. All right. We had Russia, Mike. We were talking about the other day, coming up in the last election. They were accusing of Trump of getting funding coming out of Russia and influence of the election. Although all that recently has been pointed towards Barack Obama, and hopefully they're going to prosecute for whatever potentially happened. Apparently, Andy, the UK Reforms Party, they're claiming now from Labour that the Reform Party is swimming in Russian money. Up to £9 million. What do you think?
Yeah. I believe that. No, I don't.
No.
I don't believe a single word that's coming from Labour. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, comrade.
Yeah.
Talking about comrade, we do have a statement today coming from, believe it or not, Putin was asked about 3i Atlas. Should we listen in what he has to say about it?
Please, I'd like to hear that. Go ahead.
All right, here we go. Let's jump into it.
Скажу, но это должно остаться исключительно между нами. Это секретная информация. Это наше секретное оружие, но мы будем считать, потому что мы против.
Oh God, it's not translated.
Причем это другая
Oh, you son of a bitch. All right, so jokes aside, let's just get into what he said. I thought it was going to be translated, those son of a bitches. All right, so Putin answering a question whether 3i Atlas, which has been flying towards Earth for several months, could be an alien ship, like Avi Loeb demands. Let's say, quote, let's keep this strictly between us because it's classified information. It's our secret weapon. We'll only use it in the most extreme case, which we won't because we're actually against putting weapons in space, which is something the United States wants to do now with the new space policy, which we'll be covering tomorrow. Jokes aside, it's just a comet. Our scientists know exactly what it is. It's from another galaxy, so it behaves differently from our local comets. It has a different shell, comes close to the sun, some unusual processes on the surface. Even the tail looks a bit odd. Nothing mystical. It's a decent size, maybe 2 to 6 kilometers, but for the perspective, the moon is 400,000 kilometers away. This thing is hundreds of millions of kilometers from us. So no, it's not about to hit anyone. There you go.
Amazingly knowledgeable, succinct, clear. That is a very good statement from a head of state.
Yeah.
And he left on his private ship for Mars right after that.
Oh, you took Elon's.
Yeah.
Elon has a ship to go to Mars.
Yeah.
Well, according to Trump and his last executive order, we're going to be setting a base up on the moon in 2030 and getting ready to go to Mars next.
Well, 2028 is when we're supposedly going to have our station up around the moon and putting people back around the moon. Should be relatively soon, and we'll see where it all goes, Mike. It's about time the United States gets going in space again. The space station is literally falling apart. China is kicking our ass in space right now, whether you agree with me or not. From what I'm seeing, they're kicking the United States ass in manufacturing. They're kicking our ass in space, and what's going on? Their new space station is huge. It's cutting edge, state of the art technology, where we're limping along with stuff that was designed well over 30 years ago. Granted, we're still working with the Russians, but the Russians are also now working with the Chinese on their new space station. Go figure.
Well, they have open.
We're also
barbecues
about
on the
to
Chinese space
deorbit
station.
our space station.
Yeah.
That's coming up.
Yep.
Thank you, Elon Musk, for handling that stuff that NASA can no longer handle.
Right.
Yeah, right.
That's exactly right. So now we know, now that NASA has become officially an intelligence
Run with it for
agency-
30 seconds, Mike. I need to hit the library.
Yeah, go right ahead. Well, now that NASA has been classified as an intelligence agency, and now that Trump had put in this executive order demanding them in a few short years to get us up into low Earth orbit, put up a new space station, set up a base on the moon, and get ready to go to Mars. I don't think that NASA has the funding, the money, the preparation to be able to do all of those things in such a short period of time. So how this is going to play out is anybody's guess. I think they're not equipped to deal with this. And maybe if he talked about, I don't know, a private company like SpaceX that would be able to start working on achieving those goals, I don't think the deadline that he posted for 2030 is realistic. They'd have to probably expand that.
Yeah.
But if he wanted someone like Elon.
Musk has said between 29 and 31 crewed missions landing on Mars.
Really?
Yeah.
29 to 31. He said it could be as early as 29, but more likely 31.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Something else.
Sure, can't do it.
Yeah. Something else, Mike, I want to bring up. Remember those UFOs that we saw popping in and out of reality over just north of Washington, D.C.?
Yeah.
Does this kind of look familiar?
It's
Steven
a
Spielberg.
It's a crop circle from Steven Spielberg's new movie, and it's got the same kind of shapes like what we were seeing in the sky over northern Washington, D.C. So I think Spielberg is definitely cued into some real things that are going on.
He has to be. This is not just the artist imagination. They're not creating this.
It's okay.
It is an AI.
No. Yeah. So those concentric circles linked with other circles in the area, it's just too freaking obvious. Laura, go ahead. Or not?
You're on mute, Laura.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to add Spielberg's movie, everybody's been discussing the clicking noises. I think the best example I've seen of somebody demonstrating was Daryl Anka from Bashar. There have been 2 videos where those sounds sounded just like it. And if you look at Polarity Podcast a couple weeks back, he plays those. And it's pretty shocking because not only are the clicks right, but the breathing sounds just before Bashar comes in and he starts to channel. So I think people need to look at that Polarity Podcast.
Or check out Bashar channeling.
Or you have to go through and find the one, but he nails 2 of them and it's creepy. Yeah, I just wanted to share.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Laura. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yep.
All right. Wow. Let me find out where in the hell do I go here. Get back to here. What else do we have, Mike? Let's see if there's anything else in my list of stuff we need to cover. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Samsung just announced they're out of RAM and they're increasing prices 100%.
Hey, what?
Samsung is out of RAM.
Oh my God.
And now they're increasing their prices because they're out by 100% at least.
No.
No, that's
So-
ridiculous. You and I have been talking about that.
Oh, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they're making an official public announcement. They're doubling the price, and that they're not going to stop there. You and I know that.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, it's already quadrupled. It's gone from like a couple $100 to like $700 lately. So, what the hell? Throw caution to the wind. There goes PC gaming, my friends. Because NVIDIA also announced, oh, yeah, we're cutting down GPU shipments to consumers by 40% starting in January. Fuck off.
Right.
Oh, that's right. We're going after the enterprise and AI. So that's where the money is. Thanks for getting us to where we are. We don't need you anymore.
Yeah. Good luck if you need a new video card.
Oh, yeah. Buy it now. If you think you need one in the next 6 months, buy it now. If you need SSDs, buy it now. The price for the raw material for SSDs in the last week has gone up 246%. So if you think you need an SSD, like a 2 gig or 4 gig, a 2 terabyte or 4 terabyte, buy it now because the prices are gonna go insane. I feel like should be doing crazy eddies at this point.
Yeah.
All right, we do have a clip here coming from the new director of NASA, and let's go ahead and bring this up. I think we've got a report coming about what's going on with NASA, but we're not going to figure out the orbit of his ears yet, so let's go ahead and play this. Here we go.
Okay, first day on the job, and I'm in the Oval Office as the president signs a national space policy. I'm just thrilled for the opportunity.
You know, the president has laid out some of his vision for space superiority, return to the moon by 2028, a permanent lunar outpost by 2030. I would love to hear from you what your vision, what is the checklist of accomplishments you would like to see for NASA?
Well, I am completely aligned with President Trump's vision. This national space policy he signed today, and I can say this, a lifelong space enthusiast and astronaut, is probably the most significant national space policy since the Kennedy era. So my objective is to ensure that President Trump's vision is achieved, and ideally ahead of schedule. So you talked about a return to the moon. For sure, we want to do that before 2028. In fact, we have a mission, Artemis 2, that's set to launch in the very near future. It'll be the first time we send American astronauts around the moon in more than a half century. We want to follow that up with a landing, and perhaps, one of the most important parts of this new space policy is when they get there, it's not just to plant the flag and pick up some rocks, but establish the infrastructure, establish a lunar base, and all the other things like our nuclear propulsion and nuclear power investments, so we can set up missions beyond Moon and to Mars.
Help me understand the significance of American presence on the moon. I recently had a conversation, Mr. Administrator, with Avi Loeb, who's a theoretical physicist from Harvard University. He's been covering, as you know, the 3I Atlas comet, monitoring it and its data for signs of anything that is not of natural origin. And he pointed out to me, we should have much bigger goals. We should have much bigger goals than the moon. We should even have much bigger goals than Mars. We should be out there much deeper in space, really probing the universe to see if we are alone.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. That is fundamentally NASA's mission, is to go out and unlock the secrets of the universe. Now, there's a lot of space out there, right? And I think the president's national space policy have set the right priorities for us to go out and do those grand endeavors. So we're not just going back to the moon the way we did, more than a half century ago. The president says, get there, establish the infrastructure so we can stay this time. He said, make investments in nuclear power, nuclear propulsion, so we can launch missions, not just to enable commercial industry and American astronauts to go to Mars, which is part of the president's vision, but go beyond it. The farther we get away from our sun, the less we can rely on solar forms of power, the less we can rely on chemical propulsion, the more we're going to need nuclear propulsion, and that is a big part of the president's national space policy. And there's also a major commitment in it into science, right? Everybody loves the Hubble Space Telescope and James Webb and more rovers, on Mars, where we could be at some point in the future, arrive at the most consequential discovery in human history. So the president has put a ton of resources behind that. Our job at NASA is to work with the best and brightest across the nation to see it through.
What do you?
How about going ahead and announcing we have life here on this planet that's non-humans and it's more intelligent and better than us? That would be wonderful, but apparently that's not in the script these days, Mike.
It doesn't seem like it is, Thomas. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I know. It's a lot of lofty goals. I don't think NASA is prepared to deal with any of them right now. They haven't been. Not since the 70s. And I don't know how they're going to get back there. It seems like Elon has been leading the way and not NASA picking up behind him.
Well, he's been leading the way in space technology. That's a fact. His rockets that he has for just bringing regular satellites up, the way they self-land, and the heavy boosters you have now for the Artemis and such, and Starship, it's phenomenal. It's great, but it's great to see someone here in the United States, although he's originally from South Africa, lived in Canada for a bit, but here in the United States, leading the space race from here in the United States. It's wonderful.
Right. Yeah, well, it's a very short window. We're at the end of 2025, technically 2026 in a few weeks. And now he's talking about what, 2028? That we're supposed to be up there and this stuff is all supposed to be set up? Not bloody likely, in my opinion.
Well, the only thing that was kind of really set back because of COVID was actually the creation of the next generation spacesuits. They're going to be needed for orbiting the moon and going down to the surface. From last we heard, about 6-8 months ago, they were well over a year or two behind because of COVID, they were claiming. And if anything, that's what would be pushing back the Artemis missions. Hopefully they've caught up and they can do things a bit faster. But you know what? Time will tell, my friend.
Time will tell. We're going to be on our way to seeing if they can actually pull it off or not.
Yeah, and tomorrow we'll be going over in depth what our space policy is looking towards. And really quick, folks, if you're watching the show, you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead. We'd love to have you as a subscriber here at Disclosure Tonight. It really helps me grow the audience, helping you. We'd appreciate your love and support for everything we do here. Mike, along those lines, I want to go ahead and thank a couple of our viewers for our super chats tonight. Yeah, the only way we get our money here is from our friends in the back, who are our friends in the chat who actually give us some super chats. Coming our way today, we got Stargazer, Mr. Catfish 2100, and Stargazer again. Thank you very much for your love and support of everything we do here on Disclosure Tonight. Mike, I want to thank you. I want to thank Gene and everyone for coming into tonight's show.
Oh, my pleasure. It was a great show. A lot of interesting things. The conversation was fun, like you said. And thank you for doing this, putting it all together. It was great.
Absolutely, my friend. And as we usually say at the end of every episode of Disclosure Tonight, eyes open, no fear, be safe, everybody, but
go back to Party City where you belong.
Absolutely. We'll catch you on the flip side. See you soon, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.